Miami Dolphins, the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to take apart that game in great detail. Plus, we're going to look at the Cleveland-Houston game today. Bunch of college basketball and a little bit of NHL. So much betting information coming up. Stay with us all the way to the end. Adam Trigger, Eric Pauly, Bryan Leonard, they're our guests. I'm Lawrence Presman. Teddy Covers is my co-host, and you're watching the best daily sports betting show on the planet. Adam, how are you, my friend? Nice to have you with us.
I'm good. I got back about an hour and a half ago from Pittsburgh, where I was last night with Brian Power, who now has, do you see this ridiculous run he's on? So he's been to 12 games in the last calendar year, and he's bet the under at every game, and every game has gone under, and most of them aren't even close. Like last night, he's sweating this out. I'm like, dude, it's 2 minutes left. You've got like a 30-point cushion, and there's going to be no fouling. Like, you're good. So it was a good time, though. I got to say, what a gorgeous arena that is. This is my first time at Peterson Event Center. I had no idea how nice it was. It's one of the nicest arenas I've been to of all the ones I've been. Phenomenal place.
So before we get into NFL, well, let's start with some NFL, because obviously we're going to break down Dolphins. Chiefs, as Prez mentioned, we're going to break down the Texans and the Browns. My big game breakdown, we'll talk about the Steelers and the Bills. So we surely have plenty of NFL on tap for today. Let's start there, Adam, and talk about Miami and Kansas City. The weather forecasts look to me to be the key to the handicap. Game temperatures around 0 degrees in Kansas City. The wind's supposed to be blowing. It is not going to be a beautiful night for football. How do you break it down? Chiefs, Dolphins, the game, the playoff game that nobody in the NFL, that nobody's going to watch unless they have Peacock.
All right, so I think once you get to the playoffs, Teddy, it's even more important that you sort of have to find spots to play against overreactions. Like, it's going to be really difficult to find a bad line in the play. Like, the books are just too good. The market is too efficient, in my opinion. So I start to look for spots where I think there could be a real overreaction. And I think as this creeps up, the Dolphins are becoming more and more appealing to me, because I think the number is going to probably get too big. So before we came on air, I already saw 4.5 start to pop up. And you know, that's right around where I think I would potentially buy in with the Dolphins. So you've already mentioned the weather. And then the other thing that's the big narrative here is going to be the Dolphins, you know, the injury concerns on this Dolphin side. I bet the Bills last week. I had a terrible week last week, guys, but the Bills came through for me on Sunday night. Although I think I may have been a little bit fortunate that the Bills won and covered that game. I felt like the Dolphins had a really good game plan. I thought, in spite of the defensive injuries, they had played a pretty good defensive game, and that punt return really flipped the game on its head. It was, a game where the Dolphins forced 3 turnovers. They were getting to Allen a little bit, and that's a Bills offense that really knows how to beat the Dolphins, right? Like, the Bills have had a ton of success, moving the ball and playing winning football against the Dolphins. In this case, I don't think the Chiefs' offense right now is as good as that Bills' offense, and I think the Chiefs, specifically their passing offense, is a complete mess. And I think that you've got the betting public here thinks that Mahomes and maybe a week off of rest is going to fix that, and that's where I disagree a little bit. And I'm willing to sort of not put as much stock into the Dolphins' defensive injuries, because I think they can game plan for, they were still pretty good stopping the run against the Bills. It was really Allen that killed them running the ball, 67 rush yards, not like the traditional rushing attack. And I think right now, if you can force the Chiefs to throw the ball in any capacity, it just hasn't been good. And they haven't had Kelsey there to bail them out like they did when the passing offense didn't work well in years past. So I think as this number starts to creep up, guys, I'm more and more, sort of inclined to jump in and take the points. I love Mike McDaniel. He commented that, Waddle is probably going to give it a go. Mostert's probably going to give it a go. So if it looks like the Dolphins have their offensive players and you're going to give me 4.5 points, I might not be able to pass that up.
So I just went and did a quick Google search. Take a look at what Miami's done in games with a temperature under 40 degrees. 0-10 their last 10 tries. Tua's 0-4 in these games. And the results aren't close. 30-12, 24-16, 29-13, 31-12, 42-17, 41-24, 56-26, 33-17. That's a lot of ugly losses. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Can Miami handle this weather? Yes or no?
Well, Teddy, I'd be curious, and I'll have to go back and look at how many of those were just like kind of run of the mill games, like late, not like games with like a ton of meaning. Because I know one I was at last year was up in Buffalo, and it was a Saturday night game. It was freezing. It was snowing. Miami lost the game by 3. And honestly, if they weren't worried about getting hit by snowballs on the sideline in the first quarter, they probably would have won that game. I felt like they were the better team in that game. So, this is a one-off situation, right? Like again, and this is where you have to start to like gauge like how much of that is priced in the line and how much of that is being overreacted upon, because all we care about is this game. And I just think that the Chiefs are dealing with enough issues offensively where I just can't see the Chiefs going out and playing this phenomenal offensive game against the Dolphins based on where they've been for like a couple months now. So if you're going to give me 4.5 points, again, I was at that game against the Bills last year. It was like week 15 or something. It was a pretty big game at the time, and I thought the Dolphins played great. I think they'll figure out a way to hang around in this. If you're going to give me 4.5 points, a field goal game is good. So like I said, I just think we're getting to a number where you have to start considering the Dolphins a little bit.
Teddy, those are very compelling numbers. 0-10 in your last 10 in under 40-degree weather. Not that I know what under 40-degree weather is, nor does 90% of the world, but I'm assuming that's cold. Very compelling numbers. However, I think in there you mentioned Tua is 0-2. And that's really
what I said. Lawrence, listen to what I say, Lawrence.
0-4. Why you get so angry, Teddy?
Remember?
Why?
So before we even came on air, Lawrence is yelling at me about this.
Kara didn't take care of you last night. Why are you so angry? Show love.
Yeah,
Show
that's
love.
all me, buddy.
Be calm.
Okay.
Namaste.
I'm very
schmuck.
calm. You're the
Okay.
grumpy one
Anyway,
today.
I'm in the best mood I've ever been in my life.
I'll take the under.
Yeah, me too.
That said,
Okay,
Tua 0-4, Miami 0-10. The last 2 for the Dolphins. I read off all those blowouts. The last 2 for Miami have both been losses by a field goal. So if they lose by a field goal here, they will cover the number. The previous 8, many blowouts in that group. So,
well, I wanted to compliment you on your compelling numbers, but screw that. Adam.
amen.
UMass minus 9.5 against LaSalle. Man, this is your sport. These are schools that are not winning it all, so they're your schools. How do we bet this game?
So actually, I mean, both of these teams have been pleasant surprises to start the season. Like, these were two teams that were like expected to be finished near the bottom of the A10, and both had pretty good non-conference schedules. I think they're both sitting at like 10 wins right now. But I guess just off the top, I disagreed with the LaSalle love in the market. This opened 10.5, which I already thought was a huge number. I do still think the number is pretty big, which is what keeps it like off my client card, even at 9.5. But as from a matchup perspective, this is a great matchup for UMass. So I'm going to talk about a couple of different ways you can bet this in addition to just going out and laying the points. So first of all, LaSalle, they're very guard oriented. And that's where I think like UMass could have a pretty big advantage in this game. The matchup reminds me somewhat of the Duquesne game last week. And that was a game where UMass scored 43 paint points and won the game by 19. And it has to be a concern here for LaSalle because they play 4 guards, and really UMass's size and athleticism should play here, and they should have a similar advantage in the paint. Frank Martin is the UMass coach. This is his second year there. He's a fantastic program builder. Obviously, everyone should remember him from K-State, from South Carolina. I thought, he might be back at square one this year because last year's team was decimated by injury. He lost a lot of that roster, but he hit absolute home runs in the transfer portal. specifically Josh Cohen, 6'10" center, co-NEC Player of the Year last year, transferred in from St. Francis, leads the team with 16.6 points per game. And, this roster has sort of kind of emerged as being very solid. That's another thing Martin does is he plays 10, 11 guys, and he's sort of come up aces with the way he's constructed this roster. So I like this UMass team. And another thing that just kind of sticks out to me is the fact that the last two games, UMass was 5 for 32 from three. And they should have probably beat Dayton over the weekend. They lose the game by 4. And they just could not. I think in that game specifically, they were 2 for 23 from distance. Rashul Diggins, who was a much better shooter than he shot on Sunday, went 0 for 10 from 3. And in non-conference play, this team was not a poor 3-point shooting team, and they've been a top 100 team in field goal percentage all season. So the way I look at this matchup, if you let's just say UMass has a little positive regression shooting the ball and the threes start falling, I think you could get a big time blowout here. At worst, I think you're going to get some scoring. And if LaSalle's going to stay in this game, it's going to be because those guards were able to score the ball, which is kind of what they're, that's what they've done well this year. So I think you could look at the over here. I think you could look at the UMass team total over. And I still like UMass minus 9.5. I think it's a good enough bet based on the matchup. Obviously, the number is big, but I do think UMass maybe pulls away late at some point. And again, if those threes start falling for UMass, because they're going to take a handful of them, this could be an onslaught and it could be a 30-point blowout. So those are the ways I look to play this game. But I do think UMass is in a good offensive, positive regression spot tonight. So I would look at any way to get on UMass, whether it be team total over, spread, or just taking the over, because it should have some points in this game as well.
The Explorers have been very feisty on the highway. They went outright as a dog at Fordham. They hang tough at Miami, cover pretty much wire to wire as 15.5-point dogs. They blow out Lafayette. That's the only road games they play at the beginning of December. Do you worry at all about LaSalle's success on the highway in this matchup?
So, Teddy, I got to be honest. UMass has one of the sort of the flattest environments I've been in. That hasn't been a basketball school in a long time. They love their hockey there, but they have not regularly filled the Mullen Center in years. They had a stretch after Calipari where people actually showed up to UMass games, but typically that's a 9,000, pretty much we'll call it a 10,000 seat hockey arena that typically gets 3,000 for basketball games. So it's not the best home atmosphere. And you made a good point. LaSalle's feisty because they got 4 guards that can all score. So it's Khalil Brantley, Anwar Gill, Brickus, Shepard, all scorers. And that will keep them in games. But that's why I kind of threw the over in the mix there as well, because I think, if LaSalle does hang around here, they're going to have to score to do so. So maybe you split your bet, maybe half a unit on the over, half a unit on UMass, because I do like the matchup here for UMass. But you bring up a good point about LaSalle. They have the guard play to potentially hang around in this game if those guards are hitting shots.
Adam Trigger, everybody. And guys, I want to say something real quick. A couple of days ago, I gave out a daily presidential address pick, and it lost. And one of our clients on YouTube, one of our listeners on YouTube said, I cost him $1,800. My free pick that I gave out free at the end of the show cost him $1,800. The point I'm making is it is incredibly hard to come up with 1 or 2 winners a night. Incredibly hard. And then Adam Trigger, Teddy, myself, we do other shows, Bryan Leonard, we give out picks. At the end of the day, Adam Trigger is probably giving out, how many picks would you say, Adam? Free picks. How many picks would you say you give out throughout all the shows?
Oh, I mean, we do so many shows during the week. I don't even know. I don't even know how to quantify that. Probably 10, 9, 8 to 10 a week, maybe.
Yeah. Probably 2 a day.
Yeah. So Adam releases plays to clients. So does Teddy. So do I. Teddy, people are like, oh, your big game breakdown. It hasn't won in X number of days. It is almost impossible to release 2 or 3 bets in college basketball, win all of them, then go on 6 shows, give out free bets in those shows and win all of them. What am I getting at? Adam Trigger was the number one college basketball handicapper at WagerTalk last season. Number one out of 30 guys that are world class. We have the best betting team ever assembled in history. And Adam Trigger was number one in college basketball. Number one. So for the guys in the chat room that want to fade Adam Trigger, do it at your own peril, because Adam Trigger is an incredible college basketball handicapper, the best. And he does it year after year after year. He made 87 units of profit last year. He is winning for his clients again this year. Do not judge us on going on one show after another and giving out free picks. We are trying our best. Adam tries his best for you guys. My daily presidential address is the best attempt I have of giving you bets that I am not giving my clients, and same with Teddy's big game breakdown. So if you want to know how good Adam is, bet his client plays. And of course,
can I throw something in there, Prez, too? I think it's important, right? Like, you probably missed the opportunity to fade me at this point, right? Like, I've been cold for a little while now, and this is like important because like people, I'm talking to people that buy picks, okay? And I really am not like I never have the sales pitch down, and I typically don't do it. It's like, if you like my stuff, you can buy it. If not, whatever. Like, I'm not. But one thing I'll say, if you're buying picks, like, listen, the way this works, if someone just went 8-0, like the reality is they're probably not hitting their next 8. I mean, we rarely see streaks 100%. Of like 16. So if you, like I always say, this goes for all the handicappers on the site. Like, if you're looking at like jumping in with someone, typically you kind of want to do it when they've like been a little bit cold, because you want to like catch that upswing. That's how I always looked at it. So
I love that.
You don't necessarily want to jump in after, like, if someone just went 30-10, I mean, like it always tends to work its way back to the mean, right? Like, you can't get away from that, like 55, 56%. I had 2 years where I didn't lose in a single sport, right? So like 2022 or 2021, the end of 2021 into 2022, I won in every single sport. Then I hit like most of my regression all of like last year. After college basketball, I had regression across every sport. So it's like, you kind of, I would like to think that going forward, I'd be a good buy for that reason.
You do have to time it in some degree. Teddy and I speak about this a lot. I call Teddy. I'm like, man, I'm on a 9-2 NHL run, and I love 3 plays tonight, but I don't want to release all 3 because I might muck up my run. And Teddy goes, but you're seeing it good, Prez. This is the time to release them. So you have to wait. It is tough to time it. When you're on a 20-2 run, which I was on in college basketball this year, that would probably be a good time to start fading me. But when you're on a 10-2 run, don't know if it's quite over yet. Anyway, guys, the point I'm making is we got a promo for Adam for the rest of his season in college basketball. Number 1 last year, up again this year. Please take advantage of it. It's $399. There's no promo code needed. Adam is an incredible handicapper, and we are lucky at WagerTalk to have him. Adam, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Teddy covers. Listen, you know what? Let's start with what did bettors learn, and then I'll get into some other stuff. But we still have Eric Pauly joining us and Bryan Leonard.
Yeah. I mean, make sure you lecture our audience some more, Lawrence, when you get the mic back. That's
as I do, dude. As I do. Start with me, Teddy. Just start with me and waste time on the show.
All that. But hey, this is my 2 minutes, brother. Sit down. Relax for a minute. Let's talk about what we learned last night. It's something we're talking about right here on today's show, running hot versus running cold. And there's definitely some randomness there when it comes to end games, the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game. I think college hoops has more ugly end games than any other sport. I mean, yeah, you have baseball meltdowns. Yeah, NBA point spreads get weird. Every once in a while, you get a pick 6 at the end in the football. But no sport has more end game randomness than college basketball because they start to foul earlier, and those last 2 minutes can last half an hour. I mean, last night, just a couple, and I didn't do a full bad beats, just a couple that stood out. Kentucky minus 12 against Missouri. Missouri leads in the second half as 12-point dogs. They're covering the entire game. And then Kentucky goes 8 for 8 from the free throw line down the stretch, pull away the last 2 minutes and win by 13 at minus 12. I had Texas A&M last night against Auburn. A&M led in the second half of that ballgame. It was a 2-point game inside 3 minutes, 56-54. The Aggies scored 1 point down the stretch, and they lost by 11. Ugh, happens. BYU Baylor, another one. BYU wire-to-wire cover until the end game. I can go on and on. But my point is this. When you beat yourself up over wins and losses, treat bad end games differently than wrong side losers. When you feel great on a hot streak, remember, those end games have clearly been falling in your favor, and that, as Lawrence was just talking about, can be subject to change. So don't freak out about the end games. It's going to happen. You're going to win some of them. You're going to lose some of them, and they tend to run. Like, all right, I'm running good. I'm winning cash and all of these. I'm running bad. I'm not. That doesn't make you a better or worse capper. Just means your end games are running good. And even after all this time, Lawrence, so I still find something to learn just about every night in this business. Back to you, my friend.
Teddy, a lot of customers, a lot of our listeners think I should take shrooms or something. I'm in. I'm game. Why don't we do a show on shrooms? January 22nd, Teddy and I will do this show live on shrooms. You in?
No, I don't think we're made for good. You can take the shrooms, Lawrence, and then you can sit home all day and look at your fingers, and I'll do the show.
Okay. I had a horrible beat last night too, dude. And it was just one of those where you just kind of watched it happen. I was on the under in the Nashville game. The score, I was on under 6.5. The score ended up 8, but the last 2 goals came in like the last minute with an empty net. But man, we had one. There was a power play where the team that was shorthanded, the guy gets out of the box as the team was clearing the puck, breakaway score. Then there were 2 shorthanded goals. Then there was a goal, a bounce off a leg. Then there was a goal that bounced off the skate of the goalie from behind the net. And you're watching this all go down, and you're thinking, Jesus, man, we're running the Odd Couple promo. The timing is a disaster. Oh, this industry, brother. I ran so hot last week, and now I'm on a 2-6 run in my last 2 days, and it just cuts me up all over. But I keep reminding myself, and look, guys, Teddy and I do talk off air, and Teddy does have some sage advice. Oftentimes, he is the guy that talks me off the ledge. Still winning in both sports, going to turn it around. Odd Couple promo is still available. One of our listeners asked if they want to get our NFL, when should they buy the Odd Couple? Well, given that it's a 3-day all access, good sir, how about Friday? Saturday morning. Saturday morning is the time if you want all the NFL. However,
yes,
it expires on Friday night. So buy it. You're going to have to buy it on Friday night and miss the Monday night game. But either way, if you buy it twice, it stacks up. Yeah, stack them. So if you buy it, the Odd Couple promo twice, you get the first 3 days and then the next 3 days. Anyway, let's move on, Teddy. Eric Pauly joining us. Eric, anything to add so far to this show, my friend?
I really hope you guys follow through with the shrooms episode. That's my key takeaway from that.
Teddy doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want
not
to do
a
it.
chance.
You know me, Eric. I'm game. So long as alcohol is not involved, I'm game. I haven't been drunk since I was 16 years old.
Wow.
I don't even know where you get
that's something I did not know about you.
I don't have
I'll
those
get you
connections
shrooms in
anymore.
Vegas.
Yeah, you'll have to bring them down.
I can get someone to deliver the shrooms to your house. I can get shrooms in every place. Same with edibles. I'm your man. Okay, Eric. Let's get to it, man. Teddy, acid would work. Haven't done that in about 30 years.
Yeah, I'll take the under.
Eric. Yeah, no, it'd be about 27 years. Eric, Cleveland playing Houston. Man, a lot of the pundits are loving on Cleveland right now, and rightfully so. Better defense for sure, more veteran team. I think there's something special going on in Houston. I did think they might be able to sneak out one win in the playoffs, and I think they've got a team they can beat here. How do you handicap this game?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of the conversation about this game, you have a lot of breakdowns simply, Browns, one of the best defenses, CJ Stroud, amazing story. Can he perform? These teams already played each other not too long ago. Will the defensive coordinator for the Texans be able to, adjust to Flacco because you just saw him? And now that the Browns are seeing Stroud instead of Case Keenum and Davis Mills, like how are they going to react? I just wanted to take a look at this game a little bit differently because the Browns are a team that I think can actually do some serious damage in the playoffs. And this is a team that I actually personally bet to make it out of the AFC. And I just want to approach this in a completely different angle. So now this is a newsletter pick and a 3% client pick, but I just think that there is such a major edge in the coaching for Cleveland, and I just don't think that this is getting overstated. Now, this is the matchup between the two favorites for the coach of the year. I personally think it's Stefanski, and I also did talk about this on this show in the summer. I'll get that clip out on Twitter to show that I wasn't making up shots to our producer, Chris Allen. But D'Amico Ryans and this offensive coaching staff with Bobby Slowick, they're just insistent on running the football on early downs when they have CJ Stroud, who is a player that probably only 7 teams in the NFL, if even that, would say, like, no, I don't want this guy as my starting quarterback. I just think that considering that this team, like all season long, this is the team that was like 27th in neutral pass rate on offense, meaning that they were just running the football, especially on early downs. It's been an absolute detriment to this team. In this Colts game, where they had to win and get in, which was their first playoff game and essentially a playoff game, they continued to run the ball on first and second down despite having a very low success rate. And then when they did throw the ball with CJ Stroud, as we saw from the first play of the game early on and often, they're able to connect on a big touchdown pass. So I think that this coaching staff is actually outmatched. And over the course, I saw a stat from Twitter that 15 making the most while we're actually second to last in the NFL on fourth down decision making, and those things are better in the postseason. And then lastly, this is a stat I got from that first-time playoff quarterbacks, non-first-time player quarterbacks, are in 30. Against
Eric,
20
Eric, you're really in and out right now, brother. Yeah. Stop with the sex and focus on not being in and out. Come on, man. Okay, Teddy, what do we do about Eric's connection? Dan, thoughts?
We give him a second to log in, to log out and log in, and we talk about Cleveland and Houston for a minute while he's doing that. So, of course, these two teams played just a couple of weeks ago. What was it? I think it was week 16.
Yeah, CJ was not in.
Correct. In that game, the Texans threw the ball 49 times and only 16 times with their backup quarterbacks. So I'm real curious to, Eric's like, all they want to do is run the football. No, that's what they did last week. I'm not convinced that that's going to be their game plan here. I'm tempted by Houston in that game. I am.
So am I.
I don't know if I'm going to get there, but I'm tempted. Yeah.
I'm with you as well. I mean, I know for sure I'm not going to be betting Cleveland. And I mean, Joe Flacco, phenomenal return to football, great bunch of games. He's Joe Flacco, bro. He hasn't had a good 6-7 game stretch in a decade. I'm not putting money on Joe Flacco here.
Well, the one thing Flacco does that we give him credit for, he's going to take his shots downfield. That said, the one thing that Flacco does is that he's thrown a pick in every game. And honestly, if opposing defenders had made all the plays that they could have made, he'd have thrown 3 picks in every game. Flacco's chucking it up for grabs. So far, his receivers have made plays. We'll see if the Texans defenders are able to make some plays. That's the key to the game in my mind. If Houston can intercept Flacco, they're going to win.
And I think ultimately Flacco's performance is going to be the big deal in this game. But I mean, CJ Stroud is coming off a historic season. His numbers are exceptional. And like Flacco, he's airing it up as well. He's got the most throws, 20-plus yards in the league. And I think, and I could be wrong, but I think he only has 5 interceptions on the year.
3 came in one game.
Right. So if you look at Flacco and CJ, both are airing the ball up. Only one is Brett Favring it into the other person's hands.
Yes.
Plus Nico Collins, exceptional wide receiver. Dalton Schultz, they got a running game. This is a well-balanced team, dude.
I am concerned about their injuries at receiver.
Yeah, Tank Bell is a huge loss.
Concerned.
Yeah,
sure.
No,
it's not just
you.
Dell, but they're definitely banged up in that regard. I don't know. We're still thinking about it. At 3, three's my buy price. 2.5, I'm not getting there. Houston.
3,
yeah.
I'm betting Houston.
3, we'll think about it.
Yeah, 3, I'm betting Houston. Eric Pauly will not be joining us back again. He's got internet issues. His second play, however, was the New Orleans Pelicans, best name in sports, against the Warriors, over the total of 234. Teddy, it's time for your big game breakdown.
It is time for my big game breakdown. And just let me check that number is still valid. The 234.5, that's, 234, still widely available.
He just wanted, you literally did that just to say, Prez, why didn't you look at the line? It's now moved. Go ahead.
I did.
Big game breakdown. I know.
Big game breakdown. Let's talk about the Steelers and the Bills NFL playoff action. Looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen right now, I'm seeing Buffalo -10, total sitting at 36. This total opened as high as 44.5. Most books open in the 41 range. 36 now. There's even 35.5s out there. It's a bad weather forecast, a really bad weather forecast. I get it. Let's talk about the Steelers in the playoffs under Mike Tomlin. Let's call it since 2016. At KC, lose 41-21. Over versus the Browns, lose 48-37. Over versus the Jags, 45-42. Over versus the Patriots, 36-17. Over. The least they've given up is 36 in those games. Bills, playoff openers under McDermott, 34-31 versus the Dolphins last year. Over 47-17 versus the Patriots in 21. Over 27-24 against the Colts in 20. Over 22-19 against the Texans in 2019. Push. And that's not even counting the 2 wild playoff shooters against the Chiefs and KC, 42-36 and 38-24, over and over. Steelers, 4-1 of the over last 5 games, but they went under last week. People don't remember what they just saw. Bills, 17 regular season games, only 2 say under this total of 36. The Giants in October in week 6 and last week's game against Miami. People remember only what they saw last. And let's not forget the Bills had 3 turnovers in Dolphins territory and no points from a drive that ended at the 1 before halftime. Bills' offense is just fine. Steelers' offense is chucking the football all around the field right now. I believe this game goes up and over the total. Of course, Steelers are missing their best defensive player, TJ Watt. Rasul Douglas injury for Buffalo in the secondary looms large after Tre'Davious White got hurt. Yeah, over 36. The only way I'm going to bet this one. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Lorenzo.
Teddy, I love that take. I love what you just said. Listen, I love the Bills here. -10 is tough to bet, but you look at a number 36.5. Bills can get there themselves. Bills are going to put up. What do you got
Looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, you will see 36s and even 35.5s out there right now.
Okay, better. I think the Bills can get to 31 or more themselves. I love this take. I just wanted to give you some complimentary language there, Theodore. Johnny Detroit logs into the room, points out that the first time I met his wife, I was a little bit drunk. So I was tipsy, not drunk.
You said you hadn't had a drink since you were 17.
No, I said I haven't been drunk since I was 16 years old, drunk, like keel over, can't stand up, drunk.
Sure.
16 years old. A man tried to pick me up and bought me drinks, and I drank them, but he didn't get any action. Bryan Leonard,
that's a story
us,
you're telling.
everyone. Bry, yeah, funny, Teddy. Bryan Leonard. First, two things. One, shout out to you and your NHL brother. You were on Seattle last night as a 5% play. There was a moment when Buffalo tied at 2-2 that you probably were like, ugh, and then it was smooth sailing from there. Congratulations on that win and on your NHL season. Just amazing stuff. Secondly, thanks for covering me for me today on Puck Time. Welcome to the show.
I got to tell Teddy how our phone call went yesterday. Prez is in a hurry. He's got to switch. He calls me up and he says, "Oh, I forgot to promote your 5% on the show today. By the way, can you switch from the 11-game schedule to the 3-game schedule for me?" And I did. I did because my man needed some time.
Team player.
Well, that's me.
And Brian, let's be honest here. I've never asked you in my life to switch shows.
Yeah.
And I literally had a meeting that I couldn't get out of. But I didn't think about whether it was 3 games or 12 games. I'm always on Wednesday. I'm always stuck on Puck Time talking about nothing. Anyway,
well,
bro.
the reason why I thought it was funny, because last week you complained the entire time on Wednesday that you only had 3 plays, and then the next week you're throwing me to the wolves. They're thinking, well, Brian switched with Prez because Prez is one of the owners. No, I switched because I'm helping the guy out.
Yeah. No, Brian, out of anybody who would be like, you're an owner, don't care, still no, it's you. Okay, Indiana State +2 at Drake. Tell us how to bet this game.
Sycamores are off to a 13-2 start to the season, going a perfect 4-0 in the Missouri Valley Conference play so far. The 2 losses on the year have come at Alabama by 22 and Michigan State by 12. 2 pretty good basketball teams. This is a high-quality team that we've made a lot of success on so far this season. Indiana State's a team that I've had a chance to see in person. I like the way this team plays. They have a standing offensive effective field goal percentage of 61.0% on the season. You're not finding too many teams this far into the season with that kind of number offensively. A very good offensive team. And on defense, they're allowing 48.4% effective field goals. Drake Bulldogs, 12-3 on the year, 3-1 in conference play. They're playing on an undefeated home court, but the best victory they've had this season at home came against Missouri State, and we ranked that team about 130th in the nation. So we are concerned about the Bulldogs' effective field goal percentage numbers, only 54.0 offensively, 52.0 defensively. Rarely do you find a team that's 12-3 and only has a 2-point differential between their effective field goal percentages. I like Indiana State here. The line is cheap in my regard. It's a team that I think is going to do some damage come big dance time. And in a competitive game here, I think Drake's a little bit overrated, and I like the Indiana State side.
So how do you feel about the overnight moves? Because this is one where overnight there was a pick'em. There were even some Indiana State -1. And then the money's flowed pretty steadily towards Drake ever since. When it comes to smaller conference college basketball, are you worried at all about fading what looks to me to be a relatively sharp line move in favor of the favorite in this one?
Yes. Normally, I don't like to go against line moves in that regard early on. But if I do chart them every day, and they have not worked as well in conference action as they have in non-conference action. And I'd like to give credit to somebody on Twitter. Unfortunately, I can't remember who's the one that tweeted it, but they talked about how they went over the last 5 years, and they talked about the differentials in non-conference play as opposed to conference play. And the spreads were totally off in non-conference play. But once you get into conference play, every single year it did this, the lines were much tighter. So what has worked, the line moves that have worked early on, I agreed with. When conference season starts, I don't think they're going to be quite as strong. At least that's what's happened the last few years.
Brian, before we get into our NHL talk, do you have anything to promote?
I don't. I did have something to promote yesterday. I did have a 5%, but you didn't mention them. So all the money I would have made by you mentioning
I
it,
did tell
you could just
you
hand
to
that to me when
remind
you come to
me,
Vegas.
Bri. I did
I
tell
did
you to
remind you.
remind me. I told you to remind me more than once. Okay, fine. I screwed up. Okay, I
All right, there you
forgot
go. I just
to
wanted that
promote
one
your
time. I wanted him to admit
5%.
it.
I own it. I'm sorry. Now let's turn
All
our
right.
attention to Dallas. Let's turn our attention to Dallas and Minnesota, and I'll set this game up, guys. Head to head, Dallas has whooped this team 5 in a row: 4-0, 8-3, 4-1, 4-0, 3-2. Literally, one game was close. The rest was a full-on beatdown. They just played each other, Bri, in Minnesota. Dallas won 4-0. They're also coming off of 3 losses prior to that. It's now minus 200. Where are you going here?
Got to find a way to play Dallas. And you're right. I gave it out an earlier play at minus 190. Minnesota's had injuries. They're not playing well, but you're right. They're playing with 4-0 shutout revenge from the last time they played this team, which was on Monday. And it's usually tough for a team to beat somebody like that in that kind of situation in back-to-back games, and they have dominated them. So yes, they can take Minnesota a little bit for granted here. That is a concern. That's why I also think the team total on Dallas over 3.5, minus 110 either way, may have some value here. Minnesota, the last 10 games on 5-on-5 play, goal percentage of 45.45, expected goal 48.83. They've been outscored 18-15 in 5-on-5 play the last 10 games. And despite the recent 5-5 record, if you go back to the last 10, they've lost 5 of the last 6. They're not playing well right now, including that shutout to the Stars 4-0 on Monday. After this contest, the next 3 games are going to be at home for the Wild. I don't think they're going to win this game, but they have a good chance to get back in a positive playing at home, and they'll be a little bit more fresh, a little bit more depth when they get that opportunity. Dallas, this is their 7th of 8 straight home games, so they haven't been traveling at all. The Monday victory broke a 3-game losing streak for the Stars. So despite winning that game, they had not played overly well before that. The last 10 games, 5-on-5 play, goal for percentage of 54.55, expected goal percentage of 61.35. So they're spending most of the time in the opponent range on the ice, and they're dominating in that regard. That just has not turned into goals for Dallas. But I like the way they've been playing overall. That's the way we're going to go in this game. And as you mentioned, it's just 3 games on tonight's card in hockey. This is the best of the best. And to be totally honest with you, if this was the Thursday card, this would not be a free play for me.
Brian says, take a look at Dallas over Minnesota tonight. Worth laying the price with the Stars. Brian, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck this evening. We'll talk to you again in the not too distant future. And now it's time for Lawrence's daily presidential address.
Wow, thank you, Teddy. Guys, it's time for your daily presidential address. I will give you my thoughts on all 3 of the hockey games going tonight. I am passing in hockey for my clients, very soft board, but I do have a couple of bets that I like. I want to make mention we do have the Odd Couple promo going on over at WagerTalk. Buy 3-day all access from me, get Teddy free. Buy a 3-day all access from Teddy, get me free. Both of us had a losing night last night. It happens, but we're both up pretty substantial money over the last few months, especially in basketball. Teddy's college has been outstanding. He's an absolute legend in NBA betting, and I'm up profit in both those sports, and I'm up profit in NHL. So grab that 3-day all-access pass, get the other one free. Okay, Philadelphia playing Montreal tonight. Look, this is the least favorite bet I have on the board, but I would lean on the over in this game. 6.5 is the number. There's sixes out there. So you can get 6 minus 120. I like the over in that. As for the Dallas-Minnesota game, Brian came on and said he likes Dallas, and I agree with him. Now, I don't want to bet a minus 200. So what I'm going to do personally is bet a Dallas money line and a Dallas minus 1.5. So if you're betting 2 units, split them. The minus 1.5 is at plus 125. So that should help soften the minus 200. And Colorado is playing Vegas tonight. I like the Avs. It's around minus 145. I think they get it done. Teddy covers. That's it for the daily presidential address. I got a kick-ass lunch ahead. I'm going right now, baby. Take us home.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the Wednesday edition of WagerTalk Today. We'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel. 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and then, enjoy the games and best of luck.